Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. Earlier today, Bungie wrapped up their live preview of the upcoming Sandbox update coming with the Hotfix 2502. Community Manager Deej sat down with game designers Greg Peng and Josh Hamrick and demoed the changes with a live fire exercise. They outlined a lot of really great changes to primary weapons across the board, as well as some interesting changes to shotguns that I may or may not have predicted in a previous video. Oh, and perhaps the biggest change is to special ammo in the Crucible, a change that is sure to shake up the Crucible in a big way. So let's jump in and break it all down. Now, we didn't get a complete list of all changes coming in the hotfix. You can expect full patch notes on Tuesday, about an hour or so before it's deployed, as it's customary by Bungie, so I'll be sure to go over those changes in much greater detail as soon as they're made available. For now, here are the big ticket items that they touched on. The first topic they touched on was shotguns. Previously, they mentioned that they didn't want to nerf them into the ground, and for the most part they kept their word, but they have made some changes to how the weapon behaves in certain circumstances. First up, they've removed auto-aim and magnetism from hip-firing shotguns entirely. So now to use shotguns effectively, you need to aim down sights. The next change to shotguns was in reference to their rangefinder perk. With this update, rangefinder will now come with a small penalty to zoom time when aiming down sights. That means that it will take you slightly longer to aim your shotgun if you're using rangefinder. They haven't mentioned how much slower it is, but I'll expect we'll find out on Tuesday. But increasing ADS time was my solution to balancing shotguns without needing to nerf their effectiveness. I outlined this idea in my video on Matadors and shotguns, along with my idea to give rangefinder a trade-off to make it a less obvious perk choice. I also mentioned that I feared that the changes would make hip firing a more desired playstyle, which it seems Bungie has also predicted and fixed with their changes. I'm a pretty big fan of these changes, as I think it'll make shotguns a less obvious choice and require more skill to wield. Some other noteworthy changes to shotguns was the removal of critical damage or headshot damage entirely to remove inconsistent behavior. They even pointed out that the weapon is not intended to be a precision weapon, so it's a little silly for it to have precision damage. This is ultimately a good thing, as you can now aim for the chest, which has a better chance of lining more pellets anyways. Now, they did clarify that this change does not affect the Chaperone, which is my favorite exotic special weapon, as the weapon does deliver a single slug, making it reliant on precision hits. Now, to offset the removal of precision damage, all shotguns now have a 20% damage increase across the board. And as a special gift to me, it seems, the Chaperone may be returned to its former glory, as the damage buff does carry over to the Chaperone despite it keeping its precision damage. I reached out to Josh Hamrick to make sure that this was the case, and he so graciously confirmed it for us all. This makes me beyond giddy, and I can't wait to try it out again after the hotfix. In fact, you can expect a brand new updated review of the Chaperone soon after the patch. Now, in addition to shotgun changes, they have made some pretty big changes to ammo economy in the Crucible. And that changes that with the update, you will no longer retain special ammo when you respawn in the Crucible. That means that you will lose whatever special ammo you have after being killed, just like with heavy ammo. To offset this, they are decreasing the special ammo crate spawns to every 60 seconds now. I'm very curious to see how this changes up the playstyles. A lot of people fear that this will result in more camping, but I don't think this will necessarily be the case because of the next few changes, which are some buffs to primaries. They started with a buff across the board to auto rifles, and that is by increasing the precision damage multiplier from 1.25 to 1.3 times damage. This may not sound like much, but it will make all of the difference in the Crucible. It will also promote more precision, which will make the low rate of fire, high impact auto rifles like the Cirrus Regime, Shadow Price, or Her Memory much more effective. I'm definitely excited to have auto rifles more viable again, as they were my favorite weapon class of choice for the Crucible during the Taken King. Next up is some changes to pulse rifles. First up, to combat the Clever Dragon specifically, they made a slight decrease to its rate of fire and decreased its base magazine capacity to 24. Also, high caliber rounds has been made less effective, causing less flinch, and braced frame will now reduce your ammo even more to 18 rounds. So the weapon is still very deadly, but needs to be used more carefully and with more tact. Next up, they touched on hand cannons. The big change is that they increased the initial accuracy to what they used to be in year 1, which is to say that they will be deadly accurate. However, that is only the initial accuracy. So as you continue to fire rapidly, your accuracy will decrease as it does, but it can decrease all the way to current year 3 numbers. Now this is quite the buff, so to counter this a little bit, they've decreased the range yet again. The drop off is now 5 meters closer, and on top of that, the damage fall off can now drop as low as 33% from full damage as opposed to 50%. So again, this is to enforce its utility as a ultimate mid-range weapon. Overall, I think this change is good, and I think it will definitely get me to use hand cannons more often. Finally, they touched on classes a bit, and in fact, the exact things we all predicted were the things that were addressed. In short, Gunslinger throwing knives are now actually solar, Stormcaller melee range has been brought in line with the other Warlock melees, and Juggernaut will now deactivate when airborne. This was sort of a big hallelujah moment, as these 3 things were the big 3 issues left over as the remaining major problems. So those were the major topics that they went over. There were some smaller details, so if you want to know absolutely everything, head on over to twitch.tv/Bungie and watch the VOD of the stream. Or you can join me next week when the hotfix goes live for a review of the full patch notes. Now, they didn't really talk too much about the exotics that are being changed, but they did give a hint about Shinobu's Vow, so I suppose you can expect a possible nerf to skip grenade tracking. And also they mentioned Truth, which was interesting, but no idea what that could be about. Perhaps a blast radius increase to make it more effective in PvE, but I suppose we'll find out soon enough. Anyways, which of these changes are you looking forward to the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time. This skill decreases your Shadow Shot's cooldown, and Void Anchors fired from Shadow Shot become traps that stick to surfaces and wait for prey. I combined this with Quiver in the final encounter to trap the flayers in their place. Again, my team really didn't need the help with it, but if you're looking to get rid of the flayers as soon as possible, this can be a neat trick.